Welcome. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the Cohasset Harbor Committee, Wednesday, January 17th. Thank you all for being here. As a first order of business, I'd like to call a roll call. When I call your name, please signify by saying aye. Susan Bryant.
Aye.
Tim Davis. Lori Gibbons. Derek Goodwin. Lisa Hewitt-Dick.
Here.
Sean Keneally. Mike Sardina.
Here.
Martin St. John.
Here.
George Baumgarten. We have a quorum. It's a good thing. Before I jump into the minutes, I just want to cover what we're doing today. We have some administrative stuff to do, but at 7:15, we're giving an update on a new initiative just started in Cohasset, the MVP 2.0 update. I will speak to that. Montana, if you'd like to as well, that would be welcome. Then a brief on a climate resilience grant, and then some new business at 7:25, talking about 2024 capital planning and a new item about a Parker Avenue pier extension. And I have a graphic that we'll be able to show and talk about there. Then we will, from there, we are talking about a recreation survey. We discussed this in concept at our meeting in November, and we've made a lot of progress, and we'll be going through that survey in today's meeting. The mooring update will be very brief, as the select board is responsible for that. And we don't have more to say than the select board does. Jackie Dormitzer is joining us to give an update on Captain's Walk and some of the signage and improvements that Historic Commission is proposing around that. And Ted Lubitz or John McGoldrick is joining us to give an update on what's going on with the condos and Cohasset Cove. That's the plan for today. Generally, we're going to try and keep to schedule. We will entertain comments, but I may need to keep them managed in order to stay on topic. So we're now back to approving minutes. And what I'd like to do is, because Mike Sardina is here and he is part of the CHIP meeting, we have minutes for the CHIP meeting. I would like to entertain a motion to approve these minutes. Mike, are you interested in making that motion?
Who would be your minutes for the CHIP meeting?
Okay. This is, and I second that motion as another member of CHIP. I haven't distributed them to everybody because it's just a CHIP. Oh, actually, great point. Can you hear? Because I can speak into that. Do you want to hand me one of those mics? I can do it. Just the main one. How's this?
Much better.
Yes, we made an effort to get these because it's impossible to hear in this room. Remind us if we forget to use this, okay? We have another mic for people, a second mic as well. We have a second on the minutes. All in favor of accepting the CHIP minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those minutes are accepted. Now we can post them to yes.
Can we repeat your first comments about the agenda? I don't hear a second thing you said.
Yeah, just again, walking through, let me make it a little bit bigger too. That will also help. I can do that. I know if you want to move in closer, Fran, you certainly can. Yeah, so again, on the agenda, we're giving an update on a brand new initiative, Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness 2.0, that just kicked off last night. A brief word on some climate resilience grants in the James Brook Meadow, and for climate resilience, a second grant. We'll talk through that briefly. Then we're A new order of business is a Parker Avenue Pier extension, but how that relates to capital planning and a presentation at annual town meeting in June. Followed by we'll review a recreational survey that the communications subcommittee has been working hard on since our last meeting. Very brief update on Cohasset Situate moorings. And then Jackie Dormitzer is joining us for an update on Captain's Walk. And Ted Lubitz is joining us for an update on Cohasset Cove and the condominiums and everything they're doing there. That's the plan. Okay. Next order of business is just approving the minutes from the 2023 November 15th Harbor Committee meeting. I distributed them to everybody on the committee. I'll ask for a motion to approve and then we can discuss. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
To approve the minutes?
Is there a second? Discussion, questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approving these minutes signify by saying aye. Any opposed? We're good. Thank you. And Susan, thank you for taking minutes today. Couple of orders of business. I would propose to, at this point, to add a meeting in February of this group. It would still be on the third Wednesday of February. This is mostly for Harbor Committee. It is during school vacation week, if that's a factor. The reason for the proposals, I do have a tentative agenda item lined up of Susan Hoadley to present on Cohasset Wharf and that project, as well as the Mill River Marine and the project associated with that. And potentially we may have a couple of local fishermen to present, to be available for discussion as it relates to the current state and actually as it relates to the capital planning and funding in the town for the government island pier. So that's the reason for it. I'd like to move forward with that. And this isn't necessarily a vote item. I'm just propose it. It's a little out of order, but it'd be an official Harbor Committee meeting. Any reason not to move forward with that?
No, but we just want to make sure we, and tell the individuals who aren't present, like I know Lily's on vacation, the harbor master's on vacation. We
Right.
just want to make sure the date will work for all those.
So it would be the 21st.
Yeah,
February 21st.
and if we can't meet, we can't meet, but the idea is we'll gather again as a group to try and get that moving. In any case, it'll be whatever the date is, it'll be posted as an open meeting. Next on the agenda is MVP 2.0 update. I think what I will do is I'll start this off, and Montana, ask you to add in on stuff that I forget. Is that all right?
Yeah. Okay.
So MVP 2.0 is an initiative of the town. It's the leader from the town happens to be our very own Montana Castle. It's a state grant that is a follow-on to the original MVP process, municipal vulnerability preparedness process from 2018. I am one of the 10 members of the working group. I think it's 10, but give or take, which is about 5 town employees, and I'm also representing the town. And then there's 5 at-large members from the town. And it's looking very broadly at, it's going to build upon what was I think a pretty quick process of MVP 1.0, which identified a whole bunch of vulnerabilities. Basically, all the town departments, all the town committees got together and identified what they thought were vulnerabilities for climate and related stuff. MVP 2.0 will take that as a starting point. We'll add what we have learned subsequently over the past 6 years with additional studies from Woods Hole, from our own climate resilience series, et cetera. What's really interesting about it is that it is taking the perspective sort of how are people affected? Not as much, infrastructure might be the answer in the end, but it's how are people affected? And in particular, looking at a town, something I got out of the meeting yesterday is we generalized that Cohasset's a wealthy town. You get flooded, people's insurance takes care of things that are flooded. Well, not everybody's wealthy. Not everybody's healthy. Not everybody has insurance. There are underserved populations in Cohasset that we want to be careful not to dismiss. And make sure that the investments that Cohasset makes, and certainly this is a statewide initiative, that the investments that we make are not only, make sense for climate resilience, but also address people who may not be, whose voices aren't always heard in these type of discussions. So that's starting out yesterday. There's a bunch more to come. There'll be the core group will be engaging with members of the town over a multi-month period, even I think over it may even be more than a year. And at the, I won't say at the end of it, but there will be a $50,000 grant from the state to pursue a pilot project that comes from the discussions and the conclusions that the core team reaches. Montana, what would you like to add as the leader of this group? And use your mic if you want.
Okay. Everything George said was very accurate. The one thing that I added last night is this grant is one of a kind where usually when you apply for a grant, you already have a project in mind and you say how much money you're asking for and how much you can provide with the grant. This grant is a pilot program, so these members will be creating the project themselves. It's a very hands-off project in terms of the town. I really want to say certain projects that I need money for, but this comes from the people who are going to be affected by it the most, what they need, what they see as the most vulnerable in terms of climate change. I'm very excited. I just think this is a grant that should be more widespread in the way they approach and include community members in terms of policy making and projects and infrastructure. And my favorite point about this is that it's really going to bring to light how much intersectionality is included in climate change, because I think for so many years to come that we saw climate change strictly as an environmental issue, but we have to remember that public health, food disparities, have low income housing, there's so much more to it, and that this project's gonna bring to light. We are one of like 12 communities that are accepted for this because we did MVP 1.0 back in 2018, and that made us more eligible than other communities. So I think a lot is gonna come out of this, and you, hopefully all, will get to feel the benefits of it in 2025.
Thank you, Montana. Any questions, comments on MVP 2.0? So I'll plan to report out on that with Montana at subsequent harbor committee meetings and where we're going with that.
And then Montana, are you the main contact? Like if people have questions or they want to participate, should they use your town email to ask or?
Yeah, everyone who is in the core development team are the only people that can directly participate in this grant. But the great thing is that because you have George as part of the core development team, after he has these meetings with the grant team, he can come back to meetings like this and be like, and put it on the agenda, say, hey, this is what we talked about as community members and residents. How do you feel about this, this, and that? I'd love to get your input so I can bring it back to my team and they can see your perspective. I am the project manager, so if you have questions about the general idea of it, I can answer them, but direct participation is just George, and he can filter new questions and you guys can have further discussions.
Thank you, Montana. I'm looking at my notes. There's a couple of administrative items that I neglected to cover. I mentioned that we want to have, going back to meetings, we have, it'll come up, but we've been invited as a harbor committee to do a site visit to both Cohasset Cove and separately at Cohasset Wharf. And I want to schedule those with those parties. My assumption is that weekends would be ideal for people who are working. I don't know if they can accommodate that. So I would first try and target Saturdays. If that's not possible, is there a, if we were to do something in early morning or late in the day, on a weekday, is there any preference on those?
I would ask that it either be early in the day or late in the day, just not like noon. Make it easier. I don't know if the rest of we working people.
I'm fairly flexible.
Yeah.
With my schedule.
Okay.
With sales guys.
Yeah,
I mean, I will put this out. What I'm actually request is, several dates and times from those folks and see how many. I don't expect we'll have a full group, but as
So-
many as possible.
So people who aren't at the meeting tonight and want to attend should,
well, you'll be notified.
I'm gonna notify, was just trying to get a sense of the room. I was asking actually ahead of time from those folks what times they could give us. I didn't get that, so. I will get in touch with folks. It's good to hear you're flexible, Martin, and Mike, you're flexible. Thank you. Okay, back to the agenda. Montana, I'm going to ask you to speak again, just to give an update on status of the couple of grants that have been awarded to the town and where those stand and any idea of time and expectations of them moving. Montana.
So the CZM FY24, there's two of them, but I'll start off with the Jamesburg Watershed, which is working with Weston and Sampson as our main contractor, and then Woods Hole as a subcontractor. We just signed a contract about a month ago, so hopefully our first public meeting will be sometime in February. We haven't solidified the date yet. We're having our first internal kickoff meeting next week. And then we'll solidify a date and we'll publish that on the flyer so everyone can be invited in to give you guys a little information about what this project will look like. And then the other CZM one, which is the wastewater treatment plant with Woodard and Curran. We switched the scope a little. So before it was sealing like sewer pipes. We changed it to elevating critical pumps in the wastewater treatment plant. Basically, Brian Joyce and the lead engineer at Woodard and Curran decided that this was more critical than sealing some lines, because say we flood with the prediction that Whipple gave us back in 2020 or 2030, these pumps would go and then the whole wastewater treatment would go under, and then things would start backing up into the growth. So we don't want that. So the scope switched a little. That is just engineering. As of right now, we're not having a public kickoff meeting because it's more engineering plans, but those are the updates for the two. Once we set a hard date for the public hearing, we'll let you guys.
Questions for Montana?
Thank you.
It was jostling papers, but do you think there'll be movement on those, and when is a potential start date and a public kickoff, if any?
Yeah, so for the Jamesburg watershed, the public kickoff meeting should hopefully be like mid-February, probably when the next meeting for this might be. But I have a meeting internally next Wednesday to talk about when we'll solidify that date. There's already task 1 and task 2 have already been in the process of being completed. It's not like we haven't started anything yet. It's just engaging the public is the thing that we haven't started yet.
Thank you. Next agenda item is 2024 capital planning, annual town meeting prep, Parker Avenue Pier Extension and Government Island Pier. I'm gonna try and pull these things together because it's a bit of a mouthful. I was invited to meet with Chris Senior and Michelle Leary and Lori Gibbons about a week or week and a half ago. Yeah, and it was in order to talk about the topic of capital budget and what's being presented to the select board in 6 days in a week, and then in preparation for annual town meeting in June. Something that Lori Gibbons has been working on and was just, I guess, anyway, we'll just say she's been working on it, is a proposed extension to the Parker Avenue Pier. And I'll show a picture of that in a moment, and we can talk about that. And that the town would help fund the Community Preservation Act would help fund. So it'd be just internal town funding. What it raises the issue of for Chris Senior and Michelle Leary is, okay, we're putting money into the harbor, we're extending a pier over at Parker Avenue. So what's the deal with Government Island? And just to the what they've asked for, and this is a sort of a refresh of or a review of the business case for Government Island and the improvements that are proposed for that, so that those can be presented along with the capital proposal for the pier extension. Just to put it in context, I think the pier extension,
Which pier?
I'm sorry, the Parker Avenue Pier Extension, you know, I don't know the numbers on it, but it's in the neighborhood of 100 to, I'd say 150 to 250,000, all in with engineering and building and stuff. The Government Island Pier, the estimate that's been pushed around there is $4 to $5 million. And that's been known for a while. The expectation is that the town would get a grant of $1 million from Seaport Economic Council. That's the maximum that organization gives. The town would have to show a 25% match to the entire project. So if it's $5 million, the town needs to be able to support 1.25. So added up 1.25 plus 1, we're still a couple $1 million short. And now there are potential grants that the town not only could get, they have to get it, because I don't think the town believes that there's an appetite for that kind of spending to go much more than that. And so I guess the request to Lori, and I was there, is for us to help be prepared to justify what is presented at annual town meeting as investments in the harbor, both the potential proposed pier, Parker Avenue Pier extension, as well as a refresh on Government Island. Now, a little bit more on that, the question from town management was, okay, if we invest in Government Island Pier, you know, will there continue to be lobstermen and fishermen there to benefit from the conveyor systems and other improvements that are made to that? So that is, to that end, I've contacted Adam Donovan and Mike Lane, and there may be others. Those are gentlemen who are actively lobstering and fishing in Cohasset, and they've attended a number of these meetings. And while we don't want to redo a business case, because Adam told me that there was an awful lot of business case doings back at the when the municipal harbor plan was done. What the town wants to hear is that, you know, 4 years later, that there's still both the need and the opportunity, not just around lobstering, which people are concerned climate change is pushing lobsters to go further north, but other types of fishing that the fishermen may be engaged in, aquaculture, you know, harvesting seaweed, anything in that area. And I think we do have some good resources. So that is actually what's behind. I'm hoping to get those gentlemen to come before this committee and provide an update on that information. But so getting to the topic of the pier, which is new.
Parker Avenue.
The Parker Avenue Pier, I'll bring up a picture of that. Trying to. Let's see, I guess that's about as big as I can make it. There it is.
Oh, it's a.
It's just a line, it's just a line.
But that's not the pier, it's the dock. The float.
Yes, so if I'm using words, yes, go ahead.
I didn't know if he was gonna put another addition to the pier. Pier is the fixed thing she's gonna, wants to put long line floats.
The dock. And that is, so thank you for the correction.
Yeah.
It is the dockage.
Okay.
It's the dock only.
Okay.
At least that's in this preliminary
I
stage. That's
chat with Laurie about that, so I got a little bit of knowledge.
good. Well, I'll just share a little bit and then we'll open it up. So this dock extension is proposed 120 feet. Lori has identified a company that can actually build the docks. What is always shocking is when Foth Engineering comes back with engineering costs, which are at the moment exceed the cost of actually building docks. So she's working to try and bring the engineering estimate down. At least in the discussion we had, is that the capital appropriation from the town to do this entire dock extension is $25,000. And the remaining, whether it's 150 or 200,000 when all is said and done, would be requested from Community Preservation Act funding. If this is approved in this, it's June 3rd, is annual town meeting, then that approval would happen and the actual build out of the dock would happen in 2025. What I think we're going to go through it in a minute, but we have a harbor recreation survey, which is asking questions directly around the use of docks like this. But at least and Lori's on vacation, otherwise she would be able to speak to this today. But what she has shared with me is that ideally the extension allows numbered moorings for more, small boat holders on the land side of the dock. And then the side facing Bastings Beach would be open for use as docks are. She's also considered that this dock may be a dock that is lower to the water, so that it is more conducive to small boats like kayaks, rowing shells, stand-up paddleboards, and other boats. And again, putting this in context, there's money involved, and what the Michelle and Chris have asked is that we provide context around the proposed spend on this in conjunction with the proposed spend on Government Island Pier. Government Island Pier also is not going to need, I don't think, any funding this year. If it goes forward, the funding would have to come in place starting in 2025. Prem, would you like to add anything? Maybe use.
Seems Laurie's not here, and I'm Brian Collins, I'm the advisory liaison. But this on?
Yeah.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. So what Laurie described to me, and I think it's spectacular, right? She's gonna put another string of floats along there. And further to that, there is so many small skips, so you can see the congestion there at this point. She's talking about, and I'm telling you what she and I talked about. This is the final plan. I kind of saying this in to agree with that, but she wants to give everybody, they'll all be numbered. 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Until all of the floats are taken up, and that's where people tie up their boats. And so all this congestion will hopefully go away. Although, of course, if we build it, they'll come. So there may be, we still may have some congestion, but that was here, right? And it really doesn't affect the mooring field as it is, whether it's ours or Situate's, but it doesn't affect the mooring field at all. And she put a lot of thought in. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Fran. So there's still a lot up in the air because of the, Situate mooring situation not being resolved, and historically, folks with moorings in Cohasset Harbor also get a place to put a dinghy. It becomes a little bit ambiguous when Situate owns moorings or not. So hopefully this all gets resolved and things operate the way they have operated historically in the past. Lori also mentioned, right now, the only folks who typically are getting a dinghy space on Cohasset's public docks are folks that need that dinghy to get to their moored boat. And she's identified that Cohasset used to have skiff moorings they would offer to people who don't have moored boats, but still want to have a place to put a small boat on the dock. So there's history for that. I think the opportunity, and we'll go through it with our harbor survey, is to get a much better sense of what the population who uses Cohasset Harbor actually seeks, and see if that helps to inform actions we take as if this gets approved and how it might be used and configured.
George, can I interrupt you for 1 minute? I just wanted to interrupt you for 1 minute. It's a tech issue. You're not on screen, so it's not facing you.
Oh,
So it's like just a word from on high. There
Okay.
you go. So
Thank you.
I might have been a little
no, I
disconcerted.
appreciate it. I could actually put myself on screen, but then I wouldn't be facing it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm looking at our time. Let's just make sure we're good. Let me open it up to questions and comments. And Noel, I'm looking at you because you've been having more dock space in Cohasset Harbor has been a quest of yours, and I think this is the first time you're seeing it.
Yes, thank you for the email, by the way.
Yeah.
Imagine my surprise. So where did this come from?
Let me, well, do you have another mic? Just
Sure.
Thanks.
I'll say yes. Where does it come from? It was, I guess, I wasn't aware of it until Lori shared it. Apparently, it's been something she's been thinking about for a while, and the good news is I asked, are we good presenting this today? Because it's going to be public. It is public because it has to get it requires capital. It has to be in front of the select board in January and so on. But no, it's whether it's in response to requests you've made, Noel, or not, I couldn't tell you. But this is something that looks like it does a very nice job of leveraging existing infrastructure. And I did go over and look at it and was sort of amazed that there's all this water around the proposed dock that, it's not even low tide bound. There's water to put boats in there pretty much even at almost the lowest tides. So it's protected. So it's a nice identification of a good space in Cohasset Harbor that I think is also still in the borders of Cohasset, which is helpful.
I think that I was shocked actually to see this, because my understanding was that Lori didn't
No,
feel
you have
that,
to speak into
Lori
the.
didn't feel that we needed additional dock space, which is one of the reasons she opposed pier. So this is a kind of admission that maybe we do need more dock space, but it's getting half as much as an imposed pier would provide. If you're only approaching boats on one side of the dock and just creating additional landing space on the other, I don't think you're really going to get us any substantially. I'm always in favor of big docks, but I think this is in fact almost designed to derail any further discussion of the pier project. You're not going to get both, certainly not in one season. So this is an admission that we definitely need some dock space. I think it's halfway there. I think it's a half measure.
Step in the right direction.
Absolutely. But having said that, I'm not convinced there is sufficient.
Well, And then, you know, in which case it would be like most other dinghy docks in Cohasset that are tide bound, but it's,
I also think that Lori Lori could be at our next meeting and present it, give the reasoning behind it, as opposed to us just guessing what her thoughts. And in fact, if this group is gonna be supporting this committee, then we're gonna have to have more information anyway.
thank you. Well,
Perhaps the most important thing is, if you were to support this, is to absolutely nail down who the users are gonna be.
and that's Chris Senior brought up that the dinghy policy in the town is opaque, and he suggested that it could be clarified, and I think that's something that's certainly Harbor Committee is aware of, and this may be the opportunity to clarify that more broadly for the town.
Well, I would just hope that that's treated as a threshold issue. This committee might go forward with supporting this plan. And then subsequently find out that the space is gonna be used for kayaks. It's gonna be used for canoes.
Could be, yeah.
So I think before you proceed with developing a dock, the intended user has to be nailed down.
Yeah, I think, anyway, I appreciate that. And I think this is just the introduction, and more to come, particularly when Lori's able to attend our next meeting. All right, thank you.
Susan,
Susan?
So it's possible that it doesn't have to be a straight dock. So if the tide line there is not exactly straight, maybe there's designs that could include a little bit of a bend to keep it in the water, or even like an H shape or something that adds more capacity. And then in the Bahamas, the dinghies all put their tethers on like 20 feet of line so that there's plenty of space for all the dinghies to get to the dock. But the only one dock has to get, only one dinghy has to get there at a time. But so I think that maybe there's some more creative solutions that can be employed, and I'm happy to walk that sideline with the CSCR kids. Add to that picture exactly where that low tide is these days, but it's all mucky, no matter what.
Thank you.
With a microphone, right?
Yeah, and you know, the engineering, all of it's conceptual. The engineering also is likely to inform the plan for the project in terms of how to anchor the dock. Yes, Fran?
I think most of your questions will be answered when Laurie shows up. She's got a pretty low scope.
Yeah.
And she's given some really serious thought to who's gonna go where. I mean, the inshore side is not gonna be for deep draft boats, it's gonna be for little light.
Shallow
boats and stuff.
boats,
And if you gotta wait about an hour and a half for tide to come in, which will be
Thank you. We'll move to the next topic. Actually, just before I do, we do have a subcommittee of Lori, myself, and Derek Goodwin. That is the capital planning subcommittee, and I think we'll be trying to take at least a first shot at structuring how we're going to present, how we're going to support this for the town, and report back to this group. Next on the docket is a report out from the communications subcommittee. That's myself, Lisa Hewitt Dick, and Susan Bryant. Last time we met as a committee, we were shared a proposal around the concepts for this survey. I'll just share, and I sent this out in an email. We met with the select board, or I had a chance to present with the select board back in November, and they were this very encouraging, very supportive of our doing a survey, and as well as they were very supportive of the priorities that we shared, what our priorities were for 2024. So we're moving forward with that. And Montana, are you gonna?
Do you want me to, I was just gonna look at this chat real quickly. Well,
Sure.
can you clarify who has access to the public docs? I think that's George McGoldrick.
Oh, okay. At this point, It's, I think, no. Oh, wow, we have a number of people. Awesome. Not able, so the question was, can we clarify who has access to the public docs?
Yes.
We don't have the answer to that yet. We're just presenting that there will be more public docs. We've talked that, we expect Lori Gibbons to be able to speak to this, more clearly at our next meeting. And there's many months to go before these docs happen, if they even do happen. We've also talked about potentially having an opportunity to clarify the dinghy policy in town. That also would be something that would be out in the future, in conjunction with this dock extension. So hopefully that answers the question. Thank you for bringing that up. So on the communications subcommittee, we have a survey. And if you could bring that up, Montana. We've been working closely with Montana, who is one of the survey aces in town hall. Our subcommittee has met, and I'll ask, anyway, our subcommittee has met twice and had significant deliberations to try and take the concept to a survey that is both targeted for what we wanted to do and short enough that we believe people will participate in it. In addition to the work we've done as a subcommittee, we've had a chance to meet with the Open Space and Planning Committee and review the concepts with them and enlist their collaboration with the survey. I know, Open Space and Recreation, they actually have the name. We met, Derek Goodwin of this committee met with the Recreation Commission.
Sorry, I'm late. Incognito.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Derek. Thank you. And you could appreciate that. And Derek, no cookies.
Yeah, that's why I was late. Part of the being late thing.
Thank you. And then we've also had a chance to meet with the Historic Commission regarding their interest being the Captain's Walk. And who did I leave out?
Said something about parking and sidewalks or something.
Their meeting, we wanted to meet with them, but we didn't, the timing was good. But the opportunity for meeting with these groups is to both see if there's shared interest in what the content of the survey and what the potential report out is. And also sort of let them know we would like to collaborate on evaluating results from their different perspectives. But also we have an interest in distributing the survey and using all available means to distribute. And for example, Derek, I don't know if you brought up, the idea that we could include a QR code in the Recreation Commission's newsletter that goes to all town residents.
Brought up the last meeting.
Yeah.
As long as we get it out. By, I think March is the next, so I'll have to get it to them before, late February, so they can get it to print.
Perfect. So we expect to use, a lot of the constituents of Harbor Committee and their email lists to get this distributed to CMI, CSCR, the Yacht Club, the Sailing Club, CEF, the Cohasset Education Foundation has a good list. We hope to be able to work with the public schools to distribute it through their email lists. We'll distribute to the morning list. One of the questions you'll see is, are you a town resident? We want to accept input from town residents and people who are not town residents. Basically, anybody who has an interest in Cohasset Harbor, we are asking questions. I'm going to stop there. Lisa, what would you like to add?
I don't think I have a lot to add, but I am excited about this. The one caution that I mentioned to George earlier is that I know the town is also going to be issuing a questionnaire concerning the town hall use in the future. So we just want to make sure that we balance it. And so it'd be great if you all look at this questionnaire and if there's any suggestions. We really do want to get it out quickly because well-made plans of mice and men. We want to get it finished. So I don't think they have anything else.
Everybody has it, the draft from 1/15/2024, or do we want to go with the one that's?
We're gonna, I think let's walk through the one that's on screen.
And we hope to make this focused on useful information, so not just collect information for the sake of collecting it, but to make sure that it's information that that gives us information that we can use to do something, not just to have information. And if anybody has particular needs for information on a recreation survey about the harbor, tell us now, not after it's all done. And just keep in mind that it is focused on recreation and not on the commercial uses, at least for this part of things.
So we're just about to walk through and have you scroll through it. And again, in the interest of time, this is call it an advanced draft. It's not the final draft, but it's advanced. We met just as a subcommittee just before this meeting and identified some changes to what you're going to see. But conceptually, we feel like the survey is in a good place. So just about as we start, it has two key objectives. One is to inform the harbor committee about access to the harbor. So as you respond to the harbor, we expect to the survey, we expect to get information about how respondents do or don't access the harbor. And secondly, to identify and prioritize recreational interests in the harbor. Montana, you want to scroll? And there's about 10 questions. The idea is this can be answered on a laptop or on a mobile phone pretty easily. We do have some questions in here that are about access. They're also to inform us as we evaluate the results to be able to filter and report by different segments of the respondents, like age. This, you notice on the age, this may go out to the public school system, and if we get respondents, under 18, we're happy to have that information. We are going to go to Wilcott Commons and put QR codes out, and hopefully get respondents from people who visit the senior center, as an example. We'll keep scrolling. And there's really just in addition to access, there's a couple of key questions that are in here. It's how do you recreate in the harbor today? And you'll see in the next question, what would you like to see as an improvement for recreation in the future?
I didn't make those arrangements when we were talking about it, so they're further down.
That's fine. Actually, scroll up just a little bit. I missed it. So this is a question about, how do you enjoy recreation in the harbor today? Do you walk around it? Do you boat? Do you sit out on Government Island and have a picnic, etc.? And let's scroll down. And then we have a number of questions really relating to boating. So that's a key purpose of a harbor. And for recreation, it's, do you keep a boat on a dock in the harbor? Do you keep a boat on a mooring in the harbor? And if we scroll down, do you have a boat that you launch in the harbor? But don't keep it there. So you car top it or trailer it. And we think these are all questions that will help us understand, again, access, and it also informs, some of the answers they give further down, what they consider to be important, sort of based on their access or not to the harbor. We're asking if, people are members of organizations that give them, that surround the harbor and potentially give them access to the harbor, and there's implications to that as well. I think one of the things we thought of in this survey, particularly with the harbor committee, is we have representatives from each of these organizations on our committee and on the rec commission too, as Derek would point out. And we would be in a position to share back results of this survey with those organizations for their members, in addition to being able to share with the select board some of the results, broadly. But all of it, again, is to inform harbor committee and some of the priorities we're doing. Let's go down. And this is really a key question. We have some check the box questions. People are allowed to check any or all of these boxes. What do you think would improve Cohasset Harbor? And these are, personal. What would improve it for you? More parking, more sidewalks, more dock space, more mooring space. Focus on Cohasset Harbor history, and then very importantly, if we go down, there's an other category which we're gonna allow people to write in, because we don't presume to know everything that people think would improve Cohasset Harbor. So we're very much interested both in the, statistics we get out of the pre-printed answers, but very interested in the free-form write-ins. We'll go down a little bit more. And then there's really an open question. What questions would you like to have seen asked in this rec survey? We, at the end, that's really the end of the content. We do want to encourage people to at least be notified. So if they want optionally, they can provide their email address. A few of you have gotten emails from me this past week. That's what we're talking about, is just being able to notify people.
Are you going to email this to the mooring list?
Yes.
Great.
So we're going to distribute as widely as we can to people who are in Cohasset, but specifically the mooring list, which includes people who live in Cohasset and those who don't. The wait list, the whole list.
Great.
And we're gonna have, QR codes posted in public places where people can just go up, flash their phone at it and answer the survey. That's it.
Just to elaborate on that, all these organizations as well volunteer to distribute to their lists. Recognition will distribute to their lists, so it should be a pretty good distribution. One thing that came up during latest rec commission meeting, we were talking about this was, and it probably lies under number 8 somewhere, just public amenities, but bathroom question, adding bathroom, right, public bathroom. I don't know if that comes into play with the new development.
Well, it's in our subcommittee meeting today, we said, should we have restrooms? Should be under public amenities? So it's good that your group brought that up. Some of these answers are very broad. We're trying to use generally well-known terms, but so thank you for that point, Derek.
Yeah, one other thing I want to mention, it kind of probably falls between question 7 and 8, but I just thought about it now is, do we need a question, or do we incorporate somehow into here, even though it's kind of covered, a request for people to respond about doc or peer usage and the various ways they might be using it now, because we're asking, how would you improve it, but we're not saying how are you currently using it. We're not identifying, even though we say recreational activities, but we don't talk about specifically peer usage, and it's obviously a hot topic.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that we're really clear on whether we're saying pier or dock for each of these things. The docks are the things that are pulled out and could be called floats, and the pier is permanent.
But so point noted, and on that, where I think I see that, again, we do have our sort of safety mechanism, which is that people can type in other.
Right.
And put that stuff in if we don't quite capture it for them. But potentially that could go in question 7, I think. I have a proposal to this group. So the way
Can I suggest,
Yeah.
if anybody has any additional specific language, that they send it to the subcommittee so that we can, because I know it's hard, we're pressure right now with time and trying to get to the rest of the agenda items. But I think that any addition, because it's hard to see something up on a screen and you don't really see it. So if you have anybody has any additional information, to send it to us sooner than later, because we do want this to move along. But I think it'd be really helpful, especially if fresh eye, because you don't know when you work on something, you look at it, you look at it, you look at it. So it'd be helpful. Thank
So
you.
just to clarify, they should send it to all 3 of us.
Yeah.
actually, they could just respond back to Harbor Committee,
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
to Harbor Committee generally.
Would that's not deliberating by email?
No, you could suggest words.
Just language, but no.
We're not,
back
not,
and forth.
yeah, we're not
Yeah,
gonna
that's
agree or
where we-
not.
Get it into the
Yeah.
if we just get suggestion without any response, We're good. That's Fred.
Yes, Fran.
Simple thing, years ago, we had water bubbles at each of the major docks, down landing, Dublin Island, and we didn't have a fire forever, but, you know, if you wanna get a drink of water down there, now you have to use the washdowns, which, always work for me, but it's not, it's a good way to get a drink of water. Simple things like that, anyway, a little bit easier for people.
So just to play it back, potentially a water bubbler to the amenities that might be available there. Thank you. So the proposal, again, proposal that I have to Harbor Committee is based on what you've seen, that we're seeking basically permission to move forward. And to that end, what we'd like is approval from Harbor Committee to go forward with the execution of this survey. For the Communications Subcommittee to go forward with execution of this survey. And by that, I mean that we will create a final draft based on comments we've discussed and heard today, so we have to meet again to do that. We will test the survey.
And potentially receive from staff.
Yes, thank you. Based on comments received, we will test the survey with every member of the Harbor Committee plus selected others. And then finalize the survey at that point and proceed to get the distribution we want, which is through the email lists, QR codes. And we've identified a number of ways to do that. We do expect, I think, based on Montana giving us some advice, to keep the survey open for a number of months to generate good responses. So I propose to Harbor Committee to approve the Communications Subcommittee and move forward with execution of the survey.
Does that have to be a motion?
Proposing it now.
That's a motion. Okay.
Yes.
Second.
Second's good. Any discussion from other members of Harbor Committee? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? We'll move forward and keep you informed. Thank you.
We have 2 questions.
Okay, thank you.
From Brian Host, can you please add a question about providing access for folks that do not own a boat or a place to put it specifically? Rental racks for kayaks, rental dinghies, possibly even a boat share like Freedom.
Okay. Well, I'll say I, because I'll answer for the committee, noted, and this has actually been brought up by other committees as well. So thank you, Brian. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
And was there a second one?
No, that was it.
No, this were the same thing. We're actually almost right on time. Amazing. Next on the docket, we have a Situate Cohasset mooring update. And Lisa, would you
Sure.
like to share the context of that, or
Sure.
as you will?
Hi, all. As most, if not all of you know, mid-December, many more mooring holders in Cohasset Harbor were notified by the town of Situate that they were perceived to be actually in Situate, and that they would then have to apply to Situate going forward for their licensure. It is a large amount of moorings that for hundreds of years everyone considered Cohasset. There is now a discussion going on. The selectmen had a meeting in this room on December, I think 15th, 20th perhaps, at that time had a lot of the mooring holders come and speak to them and talk about it. People that were upset about it. The Situate has notified people that they will not lose their mooring and that they would not lose their position on the Cohasset wait list, but was very concerning. Allegedly, and I say allegedly, it was this step was taken because of the suit that is happening between Cohasset and the town of Situate. Most of this, because I don't want to go too much of a deep dive this evening, most of it you can find on the Cohasset website, the explanation of the litigation, etc. So the steps that the selectmen have taken is that they have been meeting confidentially with the town of Situate. And I say confidentially because it's litigation and they're trying to maintain an ability to negotiate. The selectmen filed a document last week, and many of you may have seen it, but I think I'm going to read it because I think it's helpful. But I will do it quickly. And it's a statement filed by the select board. In keeping with, this is their statement, in keeping with the Cohasset Select Board's pledge to be as open and transparent as possible, we would like to give you an update on efforts to resolve the differences between Cohasset and Situate involving Cohasset Harbor. By way of background, in August, a lawsuit was filed by the town of Cohasset against the town of Situate. Their oyster farm licenses and the Massachusetts Department of Marine Fisheries to protect Cohasset's interests, to which the town of Situate responded by public efforts to take control of moorings in Cohasset Harbor, which the town of Cohasset has managed for generations. The Cohasset Select Board is currently involved in negotiations with the Situate Select Board about these disputes and has provided a proposed settlement agreement to Situate on January 10th. At this time, while these negotiations remain confidential, we will continue to work towards a reasonable resolution to protect our town and end the impasse between the two towns. While we hope that we are able to reach such a resolution, the Cohasset Select Board is also prepared to pursue its legal options to protect our town and residents if a reasonable and mutually acceptable resolution with Situate is not possible. We will continue to work with Situate and keep Cohasset residents informed as negotiations and events developed. Last evening in the Board of Selectmen meeting, there was an additional notification that the town of Cohasset has sought and secured an additional legal firm that is an expert in maritime law. I apologize, I don't have the name of the firm. There are very few in the Commonwealth, but all of this is available, I believe, on the Board of Selectmen website, and we will post this also on the Harbor website.
So when you said the Cohasset website has the explanation of the litigation, is that the select board's part or where?
Yes.
Where do people find that? So they go to select board.
Yep.
and it's on.
And this was also Christine's update this past weekend.
Okay. When you say past weekend,
Like Saturday, there was an email that goes out to the Christine.
I'm on that.
And this update was in that email. It was issued. Go ahead, Noel.
I'd like to volunteer to be on the retaliation committee. I think this is a real thug move.
well, that's why it's in the hands of the duly elected officials of the town of Cohasset to deliberate.
Thank you, Lisa.
Right.
Yes, I'm just showing that same document that Lisa went through. Next on the agenda, we have a captain's walk update with Jackie Dormitzer. And Jackie, I'm prepared to support you. We're going to show your slides on the screen. And if you want to come up here, and we also want you to use the mic so that folks can be heard. I think if you don't mind sitting there,
Get on camera?
we'll put her on camera here. And I'm gonna share the presentation, Jackie, and you can just guide me as I do that.
Okay, well, maybe I should start by just giving a little bit of background on the.
Yes, I just sort of speak to it like.
This-
Good.
Okay, the captain's Captain's Walk was originally the idea of Fran Haggerty, if some of you may remember him. He owned and operated Cohasset Colonials on what is now Mariners Park. And he was a very engaged citizen. He felt that Cohasset did not appreciate the harbor as much as it did the commons, so he wanted to do something about that. And he proposed creating a Captain's Walk and had the Historical Commission implement his ideas under the leadership of Noel Ripley. The Captain's Walk consists of 10 stations all around the harbor with signs right now posted on these black poles that you see with little minus-like finials on it. And the first batch of signs were completed by 1983. They did deteriorate over the years, but the commission had ordered 2 sets, so they were replaced. But by 2021, they were certainly very deteriorated. So the Historical Commission decided to replace them with new ones. And just about at the same time, the Harbor Committee was created and proposed renovating and improving the Captain's Walk. So it seemed just very logical that we should work together, and the new signs would go on whatever they had in mind for the Harbor Walk. So Mike Sardina, I think, has designed a professional landscape architect who's on the Harbor Committee.
He's
Here with us today. He's designed the plans are wonderful for this Harbor Walk, and I hope they can be implemented. It involves, in part, enlarging sidewalks, making it a safer place to walk, and making it maybe a real like a boardwalk or something that people can walk on safely. Right now, many of the signs are just on the streets. And we want to get away from that and put them on the harbor. And you can see that the stars on this, George put the, well, he enhanced by circles. And they show where the 10 stations are tentatively going to be located, beginning at near what used to be the new shipyard, which is the Oaks, the Butler Estate. And we can't really put the sign right there because right now it's on the street and not really part of any walkway at all. So Cohasset Hospitality Partners is going to let us put a couple of signs on their property, which will be open to the public. It'll be, the walkway will actually go through their property on the harbor side. And we can put the new shipyard sign at the top there where the first star is, followed by the head of Ship Cove. And the harbor used to be called Ship Cove in the olden days.
Do you want me to show those signs or?
Well, maybe, well.
I'll show one,
Okay, why don't you show one?
and actually we'll show,
Okay, well, this is an example of the kind of sign we have in mind. This is done by Panier Graphics, whom I spoke to 2.5 years ago. And they've made the signs that have that are on the Audubon Society's parks and many other organizations, but they're sturdy, they hold up well to the weather. And I thought, you know, this is the kind of sign that would be good for our Captain's Walk. So this is, okay, this is an example, this is the new shipyard sign that I actually designed, but I think it's pretty good. Pannier does have a graphic designer. And I think we'll pay to have him or her go over these and make sure that everything is aligned properly and so forth. But
Like where would this one, this one, for instance, be
this would be
placed?
that first star that you have, the northernmost,
So this
point.
one right here,
yeah,
Uh-huh.
that would go there.
okay.
And if you want to show that sign again, yeah, okay. The signs are composed of two images. The first one on the left is part of the Captain's Walk map that was drawn by Bob Sweeney, a local artist, for that 1983 Captain's Walk. And I felt that I wanted to recognize their accomplishment because it was a very big deal in that at that time. So in every case, I have a portion of the map that pertains to that particular site, and it gives a little context to where the new shipyard, for example, is located. And then on the right is an image from the Cohasset Historical Society. And the Historical Commission and the Historical Society do work closely together. They've been wonderful about supplying us with photos from their archives. So this is just one of them. And then there's a little bit of text underneath it, which more or less follows the original text on the signs that they made back in 1983. But in some cases, I added to it or maybe modified it a little bit. That at the bottom it's donated by, and we plan to ask for donations. In the first case, in 1983, several families, organizations donated money for the signs, and their names appeared on the sign, and we plan to do the same thing. And it's a nice opportunity. We already have 3 people who are interested in making a donation, so it's an opportunity for people. So anyway, this is what the signs are going to look like. They've already been designed.
And maybe I'll just go back. I think the opportunity, and it's with Cohasset Cove is, the placement of these signs right along the waterfront is a great improvement.
A great improvement, and also be sort of at a level where you can read it. I honestly, I've passed by several of the signs on because I walk a lot in Cohasset. And there's a sign on that little triangular area opposite Veterans Park that I didn't notice until fairly recently, and that was for the Custom House. Now, we don't want to put the sign there. We want to put it probably in Veterans Park and possibly in the Cohasset Hospitality Partners site, but I think it'd be better in Veterans Park if we can, because it's closer to the actual location.
And Jackie, can you speak to the proposed new sign for Mariners Park?
Yes, you can show it. It's at okay, this actually was George's suggestion a long time ago. The Mariners Park, it was not an official part of the Captain's Walk. And I don't know why, but it isn't. But I thought it was a great idea to have a sign. So we're going to put a sign there. And this is it. And my father-in-law actually took that picture back in, I don't know, before it was demolished. So I thought it was a great picture. And so it's there. And then I have a little explanation about what that company built, the rowing shells, ice boats, a lot of things. And also, I mentioned the showroom and the former boathouse that was on Government Island that is now the Cohasset Maritime Institute's building that's houses their surfboats and rowing shells.
And Jackie, could you also comment on the potential collaboration with Cohasset Historical Society?
Oh, yeah, well, we do work with them yes, thank you.
Around
A
signage.
QR code, yes.
Yes.
Yes, another George's idea. Like, we do plan to have QR codes, and the Historical Society will provide the information. I myself am not sure how these work, but they seem to know, and they want to do it, so.
So they'll have a website, and when you
Okay.
look at the QR code for Mariners Park, it will go to a page on their website where there can be much more information.
Yes, and that'll be true, I think, of all the signs, so we can actually add quite a bit more information. These are just sort of bulleted points to inform the public about Cohasset's great age of sail, which took place between about 1750, when the first boat was built at the harbor, and 1895, when the last boat departed, never to return. So it's a time when Cohasset, the harbor was just bustling with activity. There was a fishing industry with the fishing wharves. There were shipyards building mostly fishing boats, but they did also build bigger boats to do international trade. So I think all the signs will give people some idea of what Cohasset was like back in the day, when it was really a fishing and shipbuilding center.
Thank you.
If
Question.
people want to contribute ideas or help do any of it, who do they contact?
Well, they contact me. It's actually mostly done. Actually, I was hoping to have it done 2 years. It was ready to go 2 years ago, but we're waiting for the captain's walk to become a reality. And we need to know, what we need to know is what surface the signs are going to be on, because there's a different footing for a hard surface and for, say, a park-like surface. So until we know that, we can't order the signs. Once we have an idea, a very firm idea, then I think we could just go ahead and order those signs.
So, yeah,
Jackie, thank you. This is fantastic. And I'm particularly excited about this additional placard, because CMI actually had an evening at the Historical Society. I don't remember the year, it may have been 15 years ago. And we spent a lot of time putting together with Lynn DiGiacomo and others information. We even had a Super 8 film transferred into something that could be, on a flash drive. And so all of these things, be part of this. So thank you. This is wonderful.
Well, good.
Jackie, I understand, I think you mentioned that one of the next steps coming up is that the town planner is going to sponsor a meeting with you and Brian Joyce
Well, and you would, I think.
and maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, Brian's going to be critical to this, because we do have to have somebody install the signs, and I'm hoping that the DPW will do that. If not, I suppose we'll hire Brendan St. John. He's been very helpful to us, actually. So we'll get them in, but it would be nice to have the town do it. And I also want to make sure that he's okay with the placement of it, because a lot of it is on town property. And I want to make sure that, it's not going to interfere with anything. They're more or less where they are now, but hopefully closer to the water.
Thank you. What other questions for Jackie?
And you're representing the historical commission.
That's right. Yes.
Thank you.
And we also have Mark St. John, also a member of the Historical Commission on our harbor committee, so we have a good conduit to you. Thank you very much. Montana, any questions that came in on the chat?
Ooh, Jack Buckley. Here we go. I sent an email to Jackie today requesting that the Historical Commission study how best to incorporate Cohasset's connection as a New England maritime community to the country's institutional slave system and its next iteration of the Captain's Walk. As was done at the town landing, a revised historical appreciation for indigenous people of this region found a renewed place alongside the commemoration of the Captain John Smith's 1614 discovery of Cohasset. The same needs to be done in the 21st century for the enslaved peoples whose labor fueled great wealth throughout our nation, including New England. When a new Captain's Walk finds expression along our harbor, the purpose is to make the case for reconciling past with present, for our interpretation of history is not only our investigation into the past, but our reflection of the values we hold in the present.
Thank you, Jack. I think what, I know there's been dialogue between Jack and Jackie, and I think we'll note it in the record. Jackie's aware of this, and there's opportunities to address this as we move forward.
I was thinking in the Bates Wharf, sign, there was actually space for it, and we can mention, what was written in the 1970 booklet for the bicentennial, that, and I think it's quite factual that, the fishing industry, the mackerel fishing industry declined with emancipation, because I'm quite sure it makes a lot of sense that a lot of the mackerel that was packed in barrels went to the south to feed the slaves, and I feel very comfortable including that, and also the QR code is going to add a lot more to it.
Yeah.
The sign, the bullet, they're really bullet points, they're not a discussion on the sign. I think you could do much more with QR codes.
Thank you. And I'm not sure that everybody on Zoom picked that up, but Jackie did indicate that there is a plan to address that on one of the signs based on information that the Historic Commission has. With that, we're going to move to our next agenda item, Cohasset Cove Harbor Cohasset update. Ted Lubitz has joined us. We're just going to set up so that he can speak comfortably, and people on Zoom. What do we have? Maybe 10 or 12 people on Zoom, Montana?
We have 8 right now.
8. Okay. So Ted, we want to make sure you can be seen and
Yeah. Copies, so I don't know if we could open up. Is that possible? Maybe.
We're gonna- Let's see. Oh. You know what? I'm gonna take a picture on my phone really quick, email it to myself. And then put that.
I got a couple more, so.
oh, you've got that in. She's gonna take a picture of it and share the screen.
Great,
And Ted, when you speak, you just do that.
right there,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, give me a few seconds.
Well, I'll make an introduction briefly. So Ted, thank you for joining us. I think your organization has joined us several times over the past meetings, and we appreciate you coming today. I think people are, we talked about it with Jackie and the Historic Commission. I need to put up signs on the promenade that runs in front of the Cohasset Cove. We're excited to hear about that and the status of the building and what's going on. And I think you also had some observations around rainfall, rainwater runoff. I'm interested in whatever you have to share, but thank you for joining us today.
Great, George, thanks for having me. Ted Lopez with Cohasset Hospitality Partners. Montana, I'm not sure, is it on the screen? There it is.
Give me one, I'm gonna share screen in just a second.
Okay, so I've just provided updated landscape plan, which you guys will be able to view, but I think it's important to show in colored format what will ultimately be a 20,000 square foot public park, beginning, Captain's Walk, margin, Elm area. So as I'm sure you guys are acutely aware, we are well underway with construction, and as things stand today, with good weather in our future, hopefully, we'll be delivering the project and the public park and all the amenities this spring in advance of summer. So the two buildings which are on, I will call it the harbor side, those are anticipated to be done late April, early May, and then the west building across the street is end of May, early June. So Jackie, you had asked about the sort of what the materials were going to be, and happy to discuss that. And also, since this plan was last presented, there haven't been any significant changes to the public areas. In fact, I think we've made some improvements to them. There had been some stairs and ramps in the public spaces that we thought were necessary for grade changes, but those have actually been eliminated. So it's all going to be one contiguous open area that won't be interrupted by those structures. But again, not much has changed. You can see it here. We've got about I think a 50-foot boardwalk, public boardwalk that will all be pavers. So that will be actually, if you've ever dined at the Salt House, it'll be very similar to what we have on the patio there. So they will provide nice texture. It's not going to be pavement or stamped concrete or anything like that. There'll be actual tiles placed. And then around the boundary of our site, that will actually, we're right now talking to Brian Joyce about that being concrete sidewalk, which will be quite nice compared to traditional pavement. So hopefully they don't have any issues with that being DPW and accessibility standards and all that. So we're talking to them about doing that, which again is a significant improvement from traditional pavement. But I think also extend an invitation, George, to you and your group. One thing that, as you'll notice, we've shifted all the buildings away from the harbor where Cohasset Harbor and Kimball's used to be. But right now with the site fencing, the general public hasn't been able to access behind the buildings to see what's coming. So we'd love to have you guys come out there and look at it, stand here, stand in spaces, see what they're going to be. Right now we're proposing a sort of black ornamental fence that will run along the seawall. So that will provide high visibility through there. It's for code as well. At one point we thought about doing bollards with chains similar to commercial wharves along those lines, but that doesn't satisfy code requirements. So it will be a black ornamental fence. As you can see, we're still proposing sort of public seating areas along this area. The public lawn, which will be totally contiguous and run right into the public boardwalk. So it'll be a slight grade change and very gradual though, the gradient there. So it'll be a space that can be used for sitting and kicking soccer ball or anything like that. Then you'll also see this deck on this plan. There are 4 tables shown on it. That would be part of future commercial space. So we are, out in the market actually looking for tenants for this space. We don't have anything lined up yet, but it will be available come this spring. And then we're planning some bicycle racks in the northern portion at the beginning of the boardwalk as well. So those will be available for people coming to the site by bicycle. I think that's really it from updates and from where things stand. We are, I think as everybody is aware, this is a publicly accessible park. We will be granting the town of Cohasset, all its residents and anybody else, public access to this. Actually have that from the select board right now. We have for a while. waiting a response from them to get that finalized. So again, that we are the ones granting the public access. Consistent with everything we've pledged to date. Also included in that is that view corridor, that new state down Elm Street, which hasn't been, drive down Elm Street. Unfortunately, grade change doesn't allow you to see the harbor because it dips down, but that is all will remain open. As you can see, there's no structures in there or heavy landscaping. The public boardwalk, we anticipate to be about 4 inches below the seawall. And also point of reference, the seawall, I think everybody drove or saw photos of the harbor this last weekend, the various breaches. I don't know if anybody noticed, but our seawall actually had no breaches. So our seawall was at about 13.6 feet compared to a lot of the other things in the area. So there was some, let's say, minor flooding in the town parking lot near the tidal gate, but our site was absolutely entirely dry. So I think, sit at one of the higher points around the harbor. So that's really it. I'm here to answer any questions that you guys might have. But that's our project timeline, and landscaping will be going in by that anticipated time I mentioned as well. So that was during the spring. You can see the plantings that we do have planned.
Thank you for that, Ted. A question that came up earlier, not just for you, but broadly around the harbor. Are there any plans for a public restroom?
Not in our space. The commercial space will be public space is part of chapter 91. So whatever is in there will be open to the public. I don't know if that means, soon anybody will use the bathrooms in there too. But there are no sort of public P restrooms.
Okay.
So that would be sort of like the ones at Rose Wharf that are like kind of in their building, but they're accessible to the public.
I don't know.
Probably.
I believe the board was planning public restrooms. I think that I heard that. Yeah, I think I heard the presentation, but I'm not sure whether.
The reason I brought it up earlier is I think that was part of the 91 accommodation, but.
Yeah, so there are different, as everybody knows, so the public accommodation versus water dependent use zones. This is not a water dependent use zone, so that might be different than, this is a facility, public accommodation. So essentially, whatever use goes in here has to be open to the public. I don't know if that means their bathrooms have to be open to the public, but the general use does.
Ted, while people are thinking of questions, you mentioned that you just observed a lot of water coming across the property this weekend.
Yeah.
With any, as we're pursuing, climate resilience grants with the town, and certainly the Cove has always been an area of interest with extreme storms. Any observations that you care to share about what you saw this weekend?
Yeah, well, I wasn't here this weekend. I was getting photos, updates from the general area. But I think since we've owned the site, since I've lived here, casual observations are the tide gate works to protect this area from tidal waters. But what it does is it turns us into a big bathtub of rainwater. So I think that is something that needs to be discussed and explored. I've been told that that brook and that marsh area collects a very large portions of Creston's rainwater all the way from Wampatuck comes into there, and the hillside high school, all that comes ultimately in there. So on extreme weather events where we get 2, 3 to 4 inches of rain at a time, and we have high tides, there's just no area for the water to discharge because this storm system and storm drainage is collecting a lot of water and all discharges. So fortunately, it just captures the water, so where for it to go, and as the tide recedes, the tide gate opens and starts to drain it out, but it has a hard time keeping up with rainwater. So that is one casual observation I've had. Like I said, I've been very impressed with our seawall. We have never seen a breach of that. There's obviously a low point down the beginning of what will be the captain's well. But there is no seawall in that portion, or there's a seawall, but that's Market Street. And then obviously we saw what happened on Bloor Street down by Atlantic Hill. So that's a low point too.
Ted, was this side of the, thank you. Was the Elm Street portion of the development impacted worse than the ocean side?
So from
Because of
this,
March?
yeah, from this event on over the weekend, it was not. A few weeks ago, there was, I think we had about 5 inches of rainwater, to my understanding, about a 4 or 5 period. There we did receive some flooding from rainwater.
Thank you.
Ted, earlier in tonight's discussion, we went through an initiative of the Harbor Committee. We're putting out a harbor recreation survey and asking people what they would do to improve the harbor. One of the things we talked about as a group is, would people, respondents want more public amenities, benches, water bubblers, that was the restrooms. In your plans for the green space, do you have benches? What
Yes.
else is in there besides?
So you can see sort of in front of the bullnose on the north building, which is the long one on top. That's the retail space, and that deck accommodates that retail space. Directly to the east of that is a little sitting nook, so those are actually benches. And Jackie, you might find this interesting. I certainly do. We were able to salvage a lot of historic granite, really, really beautiful granite that we found at a site from prior buildings. So we're hoping to repurpose that. You can actually see we all have it stored down in the northern portion of that. We're hoping to repurpose some of those large blocks into benches so that we sort of capture that historic nature.
Stone walls, 3 stone walls that were buried by, not your building, the previous building was kind of totally covered. So maybe those are
Yeah.
part of the original stone walls.
It might be, they're beautiful, beautiful granite, so, yeah. So we're hoping to leave them almost in their natural state and set them in concrete so that we're able to level them. But those, yeah.
Thank you.
Seating there.
Is there any? Are you guys planning any dock access then?
Not
Oh,
at present, no.
Okay.
There is as you know, the public more, just the north. Not 100%.
And then one other question, you said our property, meaning the private condos upstairs, and is the commercial space a separate thing from Cohasset Hospitality Partners, or?
No, we just don't tend to operate as the.
So like somebody will lease that part out and they'll run all of the commercial area, do you mean?
Yeah, so there's one, we have one commercial space, it's about 2,500 square feet in the north building, and then about another commercial space in the west building that's about 500 square feet. So we will be leasing those spaces to people who want to business it. And then the balance of the building are for sale. Out of homes.
Is it, if a restaurant wanted to move into that space, would you be able to accommodate a restaurant?
We do not have the provision here for a full service cooking restaurant. There could be a limited, cafe type use there, but not a black iron, which is full exhaust and kitchen hoods and all that. The space cannot accommodate that.
Thank you.
Parking below it.
So parking is in all of these buildings, it's actually the first floor. So it's it's first floor. So there's no living space, if you will, on the first. So those are, it's essentially a big garage. So what you're seeing is
Going up, people are always saying it's gonna go below, how are they gonna do that?
we originally intended to do that, and we intended to do that,
Yeah.
and, it's possible. But what you're seeing here is the first floor plan, so that's what represents.
Ted, changing the subject slightly, is there anything you would care to share about plans or futures for the old salt house that your organization owns?
No, we're just looking forward to the first fully operational season since we've owned it with Jack and don't anticipate trying to finalize an arrangement with the new owner of Atlantica to be able to build our kitchen to get over the season. Be back in full force. So.
Thank you.
And like I said, I really would like to have you guys out here to see the space, because, yeah, once you get behind the building, it's a view that we all really haven't had. So it's exciting.
We discussed that early in the meeting, and I think I can get together with you. We'll identify some potential dates, put it out to the group and see what works.
Great. And we also, like to host a ribbon cutting and an event here. Love to have our committee be part of it. We do intend to have this saw, so we'll have instant lots and wanted to make a difference, ready for all of us.
Terrific. Montana, I'm not seeing any questions from the chat. I don't think.
There's nothing.
Okay. Are there further questions for Ted?
One question I just have is, Jackie, I know we need to coordinate it, and you talked about the signage and footings potentially and where those might go. So I now that you have this landscape plan, you could let me know your thoughts on areas within this space that you like. I thought I saw two things.
New shipyard would go at the very top of the triangle, so to speak. It has to go there because it really refers to the Butler Estate
Okay.
area. And then the next one can go more or less wherever, sort of in the middle, I would say, of the boardwalk. And then the other one is the custom house, which really was on that triangular grassy area that's opposite Veterans Memorial Park. So I think the park area would be the best place for it, and maybe actually oriented toward that rather than toward the water. So I think as long as we can get permission to put it, that is town land, and people have to agree that that's appropriate spot for it. But so I'm thinking of just two signs for your property.
Okay. And so I would imagine they'd have a concrete footing.
So exactly what would be placed into concrete? We got,
That's what I'm asking, so if
well,
we need to have a footing put in there, in the pavers. I just want to plan for it.
well, we'll say concrete then, because,
Okay, and I'll have to have. Yeah, if you could let me know, because we'll have to get the post put in there. So we're doing, the site lighting is gonna be going in relatively soon.
with your property, you will install those two signs then?
Well, I want to talk to you about, I think we just need to plan and provision for it, because I don't want to. We won't be able to drive those signs through the pavers once they're there. So, yeah. Yeah, so if maybe we can just connect offline. And if you have a specifications, it looks like you've done a lot of work with signage.
Yeah, it comes with, it's not complicated. It comes with directions, and it's easy to put in as long as it's the appropriate base.
Okay, perfect.
Other questions for Ted? And thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Ted.
So people who live there, if they have a kayak, can they like pitch it over the black fence to launch it?
I mean, people can do whatever they want, but I don't expect them to do that. Be interesting. I think what I would imagine is they would probably have a kayak on a dolly and go down. Down the dock there. That, yeah, that's what I would imagine.
I see people watching them now.
A lot of people, yeah, and a lot of people do weirdly launch it from Veterans Park by the tide gate. I don't know if you've seen that, but we had some people in this general neighborhood come down and do it here, but I mean, that would be quite a ride down the seawall to get in there. I don't expect it, but great to get it happen. We actually have a lot of people who are walking along that seawall right now during construction, so. There's a well underway.
Brandon, do you have a question?
Yeah, FYI, there used to be a float there, you know,
Did there?
yeah,
Just one quick question.
when Kimball's was there, it had a float.
Did they really?
Can I just have one quick question? I have a memory, gosh, a couple of years ago, in the harbor committee, there was I know we had some meetings around lighting and in the neighborhood and concerns about the neighborhood, et cetera. So I don't remember how that was ever resolved about, you know, people were concerned about too much lighting on the harbor. There was a lighting committee.
So my memory
Yeah.
is that was with respect to some wall pack lighting that had been installed on light posts that was maybe for the lobstermen that was being left on at night. And it was causing neighborhood concern. Everything that we proposed is the dark sky compliant lighting. No spillover, no spotlights, anything like that, so everything is effectively downlit. There is some uplighting for landscaping, but that's all, you know, doesn't project out.
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
Yeah, but that is that's a concern, definitely.
Ted, I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, please, any other questions you have, and love to have you in sight, so. We may get,
Okay.
oops.
The questions you go to you.
Yeah, please.
Is there any new business to bring before tonight's meeting? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you for participating today.
And thanks for my crazy schedule, sorry about that.
We'll see you.